everyone. Welcome to week 10. This is the picks video for this week. I'm going to be picking all of the NFL games for this week's action. So if you're new here, this is the board. I'm going to be making picks. You can criticize those picks in the comments, and we'll go from there. So if you're new around here, thank you for joining. If you're just passing by, stick around. Maybe you'll find this interesting because I think I'm going to make some picks that are not going to be popular, at least in my mind. So last week was a pretty good week, 9-5 overall. So on the season, I am currently at 85-47 picking games this year. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. There's a couple that I probably could have been less aggressive on and have a better overall record. But, you got to pick some upsets. You can't just go straight chalk every week. So this is going to be a week where I pick a lot of different games. This is going to be wild. So, and I have reasons. So, starting with a Thursday night football game, you may or may not see this video in time before that game begins or even ends. So if you're watching this on a Friday or later, hi, welcome to the future. So Colts Titans is an interesting matchup because we have a 5-3 team and a 6-2 team. I believe that's what their records are. And for this matchup, well, let me start over. For the Titans, a lot of people at the beginning of the year thought that this team was going to go away, right? They thought it was flash in the pan. They weren't going to be able to duplicate last year's results, but so far they have, and then some. With the emergence of Ryan Tannehill has been phenomenal. It's just in this matchup, I don't know if I trust them. Yes, Derrick Henry is amazing, but they've had some struggles recently. They did get back AJ Brown, and it's been okay, but I don't know. Something about the matchup with the Colts, especially with the interior offensive line, taking care of Jeffrey Simmons, and then the edge rushers, Clowney and Landry, not really producing at the level that even I thought that they could this year. So Rivers could be very well protected in this game, and if he's well enough protected, I think that the Colts should be able to put up points and do what they need to do to win this game. So I'm going to go with an upset, and I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts beating the Tennessee Titans on Thursday Night Football. That's a pretty bold pick, I think, in my mind. Next, we have the Texans and the Browns. It's early, the downfall of picking games on a Thursday is that there's still time for injuries to either occur or players to return from injury. And I think this is one of those situations where I kind of, hamstring myself. And that is the situation regarding Nick Chubb. Now, he's still up in the air as a 50-50 shot to play this Sunday. And if he does, I think the Browns probably are able to handle this pretty well because the Texans' run defense is not very great. And when a healthy Nick Chubb in this Kevin Stefanski offense is pretty great. He hasn't played since week 4, but he still leads the league in rushes of 20 yards or more. So imagine that. But I'm going to assume that, not having played since week 4 is a lot of rust, right? So I'm going to assume that even if Nick Chubb plays, he's a little rusty. And the offense, coming off the bye week, should have some things figured out. But if this falls on Baker Mayfield to get into a shootout with Deshaun Watson, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to make that adjustment. So I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson here, and I'm going to go with the Texans for the win over the Browns. Next, we have the Washington football team and the Detroit Lions. Washington football team is just way too banged up. Kyle Allen being lost for the year means that it's now the Alex Smith show, and I don't know how well he is, in this offense that is going to potentially be using, its backup running back, and then, a pass catching group that only really features Terry McLaurin, and the defense is pretty good, but at the same time, I think Detroit can put up enough points where they can keep this one out of reach. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to beat the Washington football team. Next, we have the Jaguars and the Packers. I don't really have to say too much about this now that Jake Luton. Yeah, it's Jake Luton. No, Luton. It's Jake Luton. Luton. That's how I remember it. So Jake Luton is taking over. He's kind of, Minshew Mania himself, if you will. Kind of like Diet Minshew Mania after last week. But I think the Packers defense is a little bit better, especially if Jari Alexander plays, shut down DJ Chark, take away that deep threat. This shouldn't be too difficult for Green Bay. They might play down to their opponent a little bit, but I think Green Bay wins this one. Next, we have the Eagles and the Giants. I'm going with the Eagles simply because they're finally getting healthy. I've mentioned that before. And I think the Giants are just a bad football team on offense. And, they got a pretty good defense, but I don't I don't foresee, this division amounting much to anything. But really, all the Eagles have to do is win their divisional games and they're set to make it to the playoffs as a division winner, which is kind of crazy. But I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Carolina Panthers. That was a really poor coaching display by Bruce Arians and company against the Saints last week. And I'm not going to say that trend continues. I think they had a lot of inward reflection after that embarrassing loss to the Saints. So I'm going to say that they come back out and they fix what they need to fix and they get it corrected and they beat the Panthers on Sunday. The Panthers are doing really well this season. I've already, talked up Matt Rule a whole bunch, and I really like what he's doing. I really like Teddy Bridgewater still. But I think in this scenario, we're going to see that what the Bucs are made of after that loss. How do they bounce back? And I think they bounce back well enough where they can beat a Carolina Panthers team that has a very inexperienced defense, despite how well it's played this year. Next, Broncos and Raiders. Since this is straight up, I'm going with the Raiders. I believe they are the more talented team, the more well-coached team, if you can believe that. I still have faith in Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, and Vic Fangio over in Denver. It's just been a tough year for them on the Broncos, but the Raiders are better suited to win this game, and I think that's what they're going to do. Chargers, Dolphins. This is a tough one to pick because I really like both teams. I really do. I really want to, ride Justin Herbert to finally get that win that's with less than a touchdown. But they just keep finding ways to lose games that are, winnable, and I have no explanation for it. And I keep saying I really hope that is not what gets Anthony Lynn fired, because I think Anthony Lynn is a good coach and I don't want to see him go. But I'm going to go with the hot hand on this one, and I'm going to go with the Dolphins. The defense is playing good enough where it's going to be able to handle Justin Herbert. Not that Justin Herbert is going to be afraid to dish it out, because he's proven that he doesn't care who lines up opposite him. He's going to throw the ball all over the field. But I think the Dolphins, especially with their offensive players, Tua Tagovailoa, 2-0 so far in his debut, I'm going to go with the hot hand in this one. Bills and Cardinals. I said last week in the Pick'em video that the Buffalo Bills needed to make a statement against the Seattle Seahawks to prove that they belong, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm going to say that they do it again in another high-scoring shootout with Kyler Murray and Josh Allen going toe-to-toe in a game that's probably going to score over 60 points combined, I think. But I like the Bills in this one. I think I give the edge to the Bills because their offensive attack is a little bit more intimidating than the Cardinals' defense at this point. Seahawks and Rams. This is another one I'm struggling with, but I'm going to go with an upset, if you will. I think this is an upset. I'm not sure if it's considered it, but I'm going with the Rams. I know the Seahawks are like the household favorite given Russell Wilson. If it was any other quarterback on this team, I would say Rams easy win. But of course, no Seattle football game is ever normal, so something weird is probably going to happen. But I think with the week off of the bye week, Sean McVay has time to extra prep for this game against a defense that is pretty porous, Swiss cheese, if you will. So it's going to take a really valiant effort from Russell Wilson to be able to pull this one off, which I think he can do. But at the same time, I think the Rams are probably good enough on defense to force some punts, if you will. So I'm going to go with the Rams in potentially a shootout. Next, we have the 49ers and the Saints, and the Saints are coming off that big win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for this game, I'm going to, the fact that on paper it's pretty easy to pick the Saints, right? The biggest disappointment for me all season has been Michael Thomas, but that's more of a personal bias because I have him on my fantasy team and he was a first-round pick, and so far he's amounted to squat. Personal rant aside, it's really easy to pick the Saints because on paper, they're the better team, but I kind of view this as a trap game. Like, I feel like there's a lot of trap games this week. It just feels like trap week, I don't know why. But I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one, surprisingly, despite, having a rotating platoon of running backs, no real healthy wide receivers, and, the quarterback situation doesn't matter because Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins are basically interchangeable at this point, especially in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo being out is probably more beneficial to the 49ers than him actually being healthy and playing. So I'm going to go with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers in this one. This is probably a mistake, but I'm going to do it just to be different. Next, we have the Bengals and the Steelers. I'm going to pick the Bengals. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to explain myself. So we have the situation where the Bengals are actually a decent team this year because of Joe Burrow's confidence. and his developed repertoire of, with not repertoire, what is it? His developed a relationship with T. Higgins as the season has gone on. The Bengals defense is bad. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's a pretty bad defense. This should be a team that the Steelers easily rout. But I'm going to estimate that the fact that Ben Roethlisberger has been on the COVID reserve list as a high-risk contact, he didn't test positive for it. He's just, they're isolating him because he was in contact. So he's not going to get to practice all week. That doesn't really make too much of a difference to me, but I'm going to estimate that win over the Cowboys took a lot out of them. I'm just, it's one of those games where, you sort of find yourself in a situation where you engage an opponent that you didn't really anticipate to put up that much of a fight. And I'm going to say that probably wore them out. Their bye week was earlier in the season than they anticipated. So, they're basically chugging along the rest of the way. And we're coming up against a Cincinnati team that isn't really that bad. They have a pretty bad defense, but, they could probably surprise them. So I'm going to go with the fact that it was a tough game against the Cowboys where everybody at the end had to breathe, like Steelers Nation, take a breath, you won, thank God. And Ben not being at practice all week. I'm just going to just take a chance to pick the Bengals and hand them the first win, hand the Steelers their first loss of the season, because it has to end at some point, right? Next, we have the Ravens and the Patriots. The Patriots barely beat the Jets on Monday Night Football. They had to make a comeback effort to do it, which says a lot about the state of the New England Patriots currently. So I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one. This one shouldn't be this easy, it feels like, but for right now it is. Ending with Monday night, Kirk Cousins is 0-9 in primetime football games. I believe that is the correct statistic. And we face a Chicago Bears team that is 5-4 after a 5-1 start to the season. So the Vikings have found some momentum after the bye week with 2 straight wins. They found the formula that they need to win games, and that is letting Kirk Cousins do next to nothing. Dalvin Cook runs the ball over the field, and they play good enough defense to keep the scores of the opposing team at bay. The Bears, on the other hand, are struggling on offense. It is struggle bus city. The advantage that the Bears have is that this is a defense that can probably tackle a lot better than the Detroit Lions. So the run defense will probably be a little bit better. They'll probably make some adjustments that will force Kirk Cousins to throw more passes than Mike Zimmer would like. So I'm hesitant because history is really against us, but I'm going to say that they found the momentum that they need, and they're going to get the monkey off the back, and that is finally getting a win in Soldier Field since, I believe, 2017, and they're going to do it in prime time, and yeah, it's just going to be chaos. So I'm going to go with the Vikings. First time I'm picking them in over a month, I think, to win against the Chicago Bears. So those are my picks for Week 10 of the NFL season. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.